My name is William. I've transmigrated into an extra in a Yandere novel. If you ask me what I regret most in my life, I'll tell you without hesitation, don't go buy ice cream, especially the one across the road. Because you'll never know if you'll get hit by a car when you go across the road to buy ice cream. You'll also never know that you might not die from the impact, but you'll wish you were dead. I was standing in the toilet of an old and secluded abandoned teaching building when I saw several students in school uniforms pinning a boy to the ground and beating him. 3 minutes ago, I confirmed that I wasn't dead. 3 minutes later, after seeing everything clearly in front of me, I wanted to die. Before I transmigrated, I had a senior who was on good terms with me. She once recommended a novel to me. With a strange smile, she told me, "William, there's a minor extra in this book with the same name as you. You should read this book carefully. If you ever transmigrate into a book, remember to stay away from the main characters." I opened it and found it was a BL novel, but I'm straight, for goodness sake. The main character, Carter, is a poor soul. He has excellent academic performance, but his parents died early. His grandmother, who depends on him, has to pick up trash to pay his tuition fees. As for my original self, although I came from a wealthy family, I was extremely jealous of Carter, who was good-looking and smart. By chance, after seeing Carter accompany his grandmother to pick up bottles, I spread the news around school. At first, it was just a rumor, but later it turned into school bullying. The male lead, Carter, then awakened. A few years later, he founded his own business empire using cruel means and having influence in both the legal and illegal worlds. As the saying goes, once you're successful, get rid of your past love. I, the one he'd remembered for 10 years, was directly tied up and thrown into the sea with a stone to sleep with the fishes forever. Thinking of this and looking at the scene in front of me, I couldn't help shivering all over. God, if you were going to make me transmigrate, why didn't you let me come earlier? Isn't it too late now? Carter, who was being beaten in the middle of the group on the ground, hugged his head with both hands, but his eyes were dark and venomous. He stared at me coldly as if I were a dead man. How dare you look at our William? Stick this kid's head in the toilet. Yeah, let him sober up. Several extras who were even more insignificant than me dragged Carter towards the dirty toilet. Are you trying to make me die faster? Hey, what are you doing? That's enough. We've got things to do tonight. I shouted in a gruff voice, pretending not to be scared. The boys kicked Carter a few more times, obediently greeted me, nodded at me, and then left. I patted my chest and let out a sigh of relief. When I turned around, I saw Carter standing up from the ground and staring at me intently. I still have something to do. I'll leave first. I wanted to apologize to Carter, but my legs were a bit uncooperative. As soon as I saw his cold look, my legs went weak. I ran out of the school in a hurry, leaving only a few footprints every 100 meters. I bought a bottle of drink at the school gate and drank half of it in one go before I recovered. Not far away, there was an old granny pushing a tricycle full of things up a slope. Because she was too thin and didn't have enough strength, the veins on her hands were bulging, but the wheels were still sliding down the slope. Granny slipped and almost fell. I was startled and quickly rushed over to grab the handlebars. "Thank you, young man." Granny looked grateful. I quickly said to her, "Granny, you'd better step aside first. I'll help you pull the tricycle up. Don't get hurt." The old woman responded and stood aside. I held the handlebars with both hands, exerted force with my feet, and walked a few meters to pull the tricycle up the slope. Just as I was listening to Granny praising me, I heard an angry voice of a boy coming from the school gate. "William." When I turned around, I saw Carter rushing over and grabbing my wrist. "What are you going to do to my grandma?" I looked at him in a rage and then at the grandma beside him, who was also looking confused. Suddenly, I realized, this is Carter's grandma. It's understandable that he's angry. Something's wrong. I'm here to do a good deed. I didn't bully Granny. Why should I be afraid of him? I immediately glared back at him fiercely. "Xiaoyan, this young man is a good boy. He just helped me push the tricycle." Seeing the tense situation between us, Granny quickly came over to explain. Carter gave a cold snort and frowned as he let go of me. Carter walked up to the tricycle skillfully, pulled it, and said as he walked forward, "We agreed that you'd wait for me. Next time, wait until I finish school before doing this. I just thought you were tired from studying. I'm in good health and can pull it." The old woman followed beside the tricycle. Seeing this, I was about to leave when Granny grabbed my wrist. "Young man, are you a classmate of my Xiaoyan? Come to our home for dinner." Xiaoyan has never brought a classmate home before. Looking at Granny's warm and expectant eyes, I just couldn't say no. When I turned my head, Carter was pulling the tricycle and glaring at me fiercely as if he would eat me up as long as I agreed. Grandma, I think classmate Carter doesn't seem to want me to go. Granny looked back and the fierce Carter immediately averted his gaze, gave me a deep look and went back to pulling the tricycle. I was taken to Carter's home. It was really bare. It was only about 40 square meters and there were many sorted bottles and cardboard boxes piled in the living room. It's a bit messy. Don't mind. I'll go cook. William, just treat this as your own home and don't be polite. After Granny said that, she went to the kitchen to cook. As soon as Granny left, Carter grabbed my wrist and dragged me into the bedroom. The boy suppressed his voice and pinned me against the wall with his forearm across my neck. William, don't think that just because I don't fight back at school, I'm really afraid of you. If you dare to do anything to my grandma, I'll... Before he could finish his sentence, Granny pushed the door open and came in. There are apples at home. You give William. Are you two quarreling? Carter instantly stiffened all over. I immediately smiled and removed Carter's hand. No, I'm imitating a TV character. Ian is cooperating with me. After hearing this, Granny gave Carter a deep look and reached out to pull me into the kitchen. Granny's cooking is not particularly good, but there is an indescribable taste in it. If I have to describe it, it's the taste of home. Throughout the meal, Granny kept chattering away. Carter is a quiet, tempered person, but he actually patiently replied to her one by one. William, you have a lively personality. Come often in the future. Okay, Granny. I'm just afraid that if I come too often, you'll think I eat too much. When I was leaving, Granny took an apple from home and stuffed it into my hand. I took a bite on the way home. It was a bit shriveled, but it was still very sweet. When I got back to the Tong family in the hundreds square meter house, the lights were all off. There was a cold atmosphere in the empty rooms. It's completely different from Carter's home. Although his place is small, it's more like a home. I sighed. I was still thinking that it was nice to have a family in this life. Sure enough, it was just a luxury. Before I time traveled, I also grew up with my grandparents since I was a child. My parents got married again respectively, and the little burden followed the big burden. I thought about earning more money and taking my grandparents to live in a big city. It's a pity that things didn't go as I wished. There was still 1 year before graduation and my grandparents passed away one after another. And I, just after graduating and finding a job, came to this world. I became a cannon, fodder who would be sunk into the sea in the future. I fell asleep with deep yearning. When I woke up, the sun shone into the house, but I was still all alone. When I got to school, several of my usual little followers were blocking Carter and shoving him at the school gate. Hey, what are you doing? As soon as I spoke, several people looked at me at the same time. Carter glanced at me and then lowered his head to shift his gaze. The little followers immediately ran to my side. I casually nodded, took 2 steps, put my arm around Carter's shoulder, and said to them, from now on, Carter is under my protection. If anyone has a problem with that, tell him to come to me. The little followers were stunned. They looked at me, then at Carter. In a low voice, but David from class 6 asked you to take care of Carter, didn't he? David from class 6 is the school bully in our school. His family background is similar to mine, and our families even have business dealings. He has had a crush on a girl in our class 1 for a long time, but that girl obviously has more interest in Carter. And the original me didn't just bully Carter out of jealousy. My parents also told me to get along well with David. When Carter heard David's name, he looked up at me. I was overjoyed. In this way, when Carter becomes a big shot in the future, will his hatred not be directed at me? I immediately tightened my grip on Carter. Of course, I should hug the most powerful thigh. I said righteously, if he wants to take care of things, let him come to me. I've already collected protection money from Carter. If anyone dares to touch him in the future, they're slapping me, William, in the face at number 1 high school. After walking a long way, when we were almost at the classroom door, Carter suddenly broke free from my arm. Staring coldly into my face, he said, when did I pay you protection money? I let out a hearty laugh and scratched my head. Your grandma gave me an apple when I left yesterday. I ate it. It was very sweet. I crossed my hands behind my head, looked at the bright sunshine in the sky, and showed a smile. There's nothing to be afraid of. The future big shot is still just an unripe kid for now. His grandma hasn't passed away yet. Who knows? Maybe the future will change for the better. After what happened at the school gate this morning, the boys in the class who used to hang out with me started whispering behind my back. After math class, I lay on my desk and didn't want to pay any attention to them at all. They're really idle. Senior year is such an important time. There's no time for scheming. I was at least a sophomore in a second-tier university in my previous life. If I don't get into college this time, I'll be so embarrassed. Just as I wanted to have a moment of peace, I saw a pretty girl in the class walk up to Carter's desk and put a carton of milk on it. Carter immediately frowned. I slapped my forehead. Isn't this the girl? Sophia, the girl David likes. Classmate Carter, I know you didn't have breakfast this morning. Have this carton of milk. The girl's pretty face was flushed red and her eyes were shy. The boys around were looking at Carter with envious eyes. I sighed. Carter being bullied is partly my fault, but more because the attention of the campus goddess has been taken away. Which young boy isn't jealous? Alas, this girl really doesn't know that her actions will make Carter more ostracized. Walked over quickly, reached out and picked up the milk from the table and waved it at her. William, what are you doing? Sophia, don't you know that drinking milk on an empty stomach is bad for your stomach? Sophia was stunned for a moment, then looked at Carter and explained nervously, Carter, I didn't mean to. I didn't know. We were talking beside them and Carter just glanced at us at first. Then he lowered his head and continued to do the exercises. I inserted the straw into the milk and took 2 big gulps. Sophia is a nice girl, but it's a pity she's not the main character. The main character appears after the male lead has achieved success in his career. He's a tough, pure and innocent young man, the perfect match for the sickly and domineering boss. One runs and the other chases, and the one who runs can't escape. Then he's locked in the villa with small chains and they do this and that for 100 years. Seeing that Carter didn't say a word, Sophia, being a shy girl, ran out with red eyes. Let me just say, there's no future for a female supporting character who likes the male lead. Sighing inwardly, I patted the cold and heartless male lead, Carter. Carter looked up at me coldly and I gave him a sunny and cheerful smile. At this time I was following Carter. He took a step and I took a step. When we were almost at the school gate, Carter suddenly turned around and looked at me. Don't follow me. The road is wide, each goes his own way. Who's following you? Carter took a few more steps forward. When he suddenly turned back, I also took a few steps. His gaze was so cold that it could shatter ice. Seeing that he was about to lose his temper, I blinked my eyes, brazenly, gave an embarrassed smile, and rubbed my hands. Can I go to your place for dinner? It seemed that my words surprised Carter. He was stunned for a moment, then directly refused me with a cold look in his eyes. No. I sighed and continued to follow him with my school bag in hand. It seems I have to find another way. A foodie never gives up. When we got to the gate, sure enough, David brought the guys from class 6 to block someone at the school gate. Not far away, Carter's grandma was still pushing the tricycle a long way off. David led his people to block Carter. Just as he reached out to push him, I directly waved my hand and knocked his arm away, then stood in front of Carter. What? William, are you really going to hang out with this trash who picks up garbage now? David was tall and big, half a head taller than me, about the same height as Carter, and he looked fierce and intimidating. I've said it before. Carter is under my protection for one day. Everyone in the school should know that. What do you mean by blocking us now? Do you look down on me? I stuck out my neck and didn't give in at all. I'm not even afraid of the future big shot. Why should I be afraid of you, a minor character? David gritted his teeth and stared at me. Then his gaze passed by me and he glared fiercely at Carter. Fine, William, I'll give you this face. However, you can't be with him forever. Be careful. After leaving these harsh words, David led his men away. Carter was behind me, looking at me with a puzzled look in his eyes. But I didn't pay any attention to him. I just happily grabbed my school bag and rushed towards Granny in the distance, who looked worried. When Carter walked over, I was helping Granny drag the tricycle. Granny, can I go to your place for dinner? My parents work abroad all year round. I've been eating takeout every day and I'm about to throw up. The meal I had at your place last time was simply delicious. It was amazing. Hearing me complain like this, Carter gave me a sidelong glance but didn't say a word, while Granny immediately looked at me with concern. You can't eat takeout every day. You can come to our place for dinner with Xiaoyan from now on. Grandma will cook delicious food for you. Then she looked at Carter, who was helping to push the tricycle, and asked, I just saw several boys surrounding you too. Did they bully you? Carter shook his head and didn't say a word. I could tell that Carter was just cold at school, but he couldn't even tell a lie to his grandma. Grandma, those guys are my friends. They asked us to play games. I said no because I had to come here for a free meal. I said with a righteous tone, like a heroic figure. Granny was relieved when she heard that and let out a sigh of relief. That's good. I thought you guys had an argument. I was afraid of embarrassing Xiaoyan, so I didn't dare to go over. It's okay, Grandma. I'm popular at school. With me protecting Carter, no one dares to bully him. Carter glanced at me and I blushed. Right, the one who bullied him the most was actually me. Amidst the laughter and chatter, we arrived at Carter's home. It was still a small house of just a few dozen square meters, messy but not dirty. I could smell the food from the neighbors' homes and hear the noise around. It was ordinary, but it felt like home. After dinner, Carter frowned when he saw me lingering around and not leaving. Then he ignored me, got up, went into the house, took a bag, and was about to go out. "Carter, where are you going?" I stood up curiously and followed him. When Granny heard this, her face showed embarrassment. She quickly went over and grabbed Carter. "William is here to play with you. You don't go. I'll go instead." As she said that, she reached out to take the bag, but Carter waved her hand away. The way he looked at me was open and aboveboard without a trace of embarrassment. However, his voice was unusually calm and no longer reacted strongly to me. "I'm going to work and pick up bottles, by the way." I stood there stunned. At the age of a teenager, one's self-esteem is the strongest, but in Carter's eyes, he was open and aboveboard. If it were me, I couldn't do it. Truly worthy of being a future big shot. The strong mind is beyond the reach of us little nobodies. Granny looked at me cautiously with her eyes. She was afraid that I would dislike Carter and that I, his only friend, would look down on him. I stood up, put on my shoes, and didn't look up. Just before going out under Granny's worried gaze, I grabbed Carter's bag and held it in my hand, then smiled at Granny. "You don't go. I'll go with Carter. I've never picked up bottles before. Let's also experience life." I went out the door one after another with Carter. Just as we stepped out, Carter turned around and pinned me against the door with one hand. My face was firmly pinched. "William, I can overlook the past, but if you have any ulterior motives, don't blame me for going down with you." Carter's voice was cold and clear. Although it was a threatening tone, I was in a daze. Both he and his voice were cold. It must be very comfortable in summer. By the time I came to my senses, Carter had walked more than 10 meters away. I quickly chased after him. The place where Carter worked was a barbecue stand. The boss was a burly and loud-voiced Northeast person who could grill excellent skewers. He was warm-hearted and unrestrained, so the barbecue stand was very popular. High school students have to attend evening self-study, but considering Carter's family condition and grades, the school teachers finally agreed to make an exception for him. As for me, of course, I skipped class as a matter of course. Only a few years have passed since the college entrance examination in my previous life. There's no way I'm going through it again. Anyway, my cheap father in this life has quite a large fortune. When we first came here, the people eating barbecue at the stalls were either families or young people having a get-together. When Carter stood in front of the stove wearing an apron, soon more and more people came to eat barbecue. Most of them were girls. They all stared at Carter with bright eyes. My job was to hand him the skewers, get vegetables, and fetch trays for him. When paying the wages at night, the boss gave Carter a 50 yuan note. I was a bit puzzled. On the way back, I couldn't hold back and asked, "Only 50 yuan a day? That's only 1,500 yuan a month. Also, why not transfer the money via mobile phone?" Maybe I was too chatty. When we got to the door, Carter finally couldn't stand it anymore. "I don't have a mobile phone." I was stunned for a moment and didn't continue the topic. Just as I was about to follow him in, he blocked me with his body. I was still confused. Then I saw his rosy lips part and say, "And it's time for you to go home." I almost forgot, this isn't my home. I covered my face in embarrassment and ran home all the way. As soon as I ran into my large flat, I saw it was brightly lit inside. There was a serious-looking middle-aged man sitting on the sofa and a woman in professional attire. "Mom and Dad." I called out hesitantly and stood at the door without moving for a long time. Seeing my actions, the middle-aged man frowned and scanned my body. His tone was harsh. "It's already dawn. Where have you been?" Then he angrily threw a stack of papers he was holding on the coffee table. He said angrily, "I give you so much money every day. Look at your grades. Were they even half as good as mine back then?" I swallowed nervously and was a bit scared. I've never lived with my parents since I was a kid. Am I going to get beaten up just a few days after I was reborn? My cheap dad continued to complain. "Do you know why I came back this time? Your teacher called and said that if you keep this up, you won't even be able to get into a third-tier college. How could I have such a good-for-nothing son like you?" Then he stood up from the sofa and looked around the room, ready to find a weapon to punish me. I hid my hand behind my back and secretly reached for the doorknob. I was ready to flee the scene immediately if things went wrong. Dad finally found a 1-meter-long cylinder behind the sofa and pointed it at me. With a bang, the whole room was filled with colorful confetti. Then Mom directly took out a small one, jumped beside me, and set off another one on my head. "William, what a surprise. Happy birthday." I stared blankly at my cheap dad in the distance. He also changed from his angry look just now and playfully winked at me. Son, were you deceived by your dad's excellent acting skills? When I was in college, your mom and I even performed in the drama club. Mom gave him a thumbs up. He proudly put his hands on his hips and laughed. Then both of them looked at me. I hadn't reacted yet and then I tentatively gave a thumbs up. Son, it doesn't matter if you're not good at studying. Why does your dad work so hard? Isn't it to relieve your pressure? Your dad has made a good plan for you. If it doesn't work out, you can come back and inherit the family business. Your mom and I can retire earlier. Dad's warm big hand, mom's gentle voice, and there were more choices in front of me. All of these were things I had never experienced before. That night, I swore that I would never let my cheap parents down. Then the next day, when I saw that the score on the mountain of test papers was barely passing, I had a shocked expression on my face. After school, I carried a school bag full of test papers and planned to go back and correct them. Although I wasn't bad at exams before I time traveled, now that I've time traveled, I definitely have to do better. This time, I'm going to strive for the best university in the country. When I reached the school gate, I nodded to Carter and was about to walk towards my dad's car. As a result, I was stopped by Carter. Aren't you coming to my place for dinner today? Was this an invitation to be friends with me? I looked at him with eager puppy dog eyes. Carter's cold expression cracked a bit, and the back of his ears turned slightly red. My grandma said, "It's lively when you come for dinner." After he awkwardly finished speaking, he hung his long eyelashes and didn't look at me, as if there were gold on the ground. After Carter's parents passed away, there were only him and his grandma at home. He had a cold personality, so it was hard to believe it could be lively. I jumped over and stretched out my arms to hug his shoulders. He just stood there like a bamboo pole, motionless, only looking at me with a look of disgust. I can't go today. I lifted my chin and motioned him to look at the car across the street. My dad was looking over here through the window. Our old man is back. He almost beat me up yesterday because of my poor grades. Please tell Granny for me. Carter nodded and walked away with his school bag in hand. After getting in the car, the old man was originally going straight home. When passing by the bookstore, I asked him to stop the car. He looked at me in confusion as I got out and came back with a pile of books in my arms. I'll buy some books and get into a good university to make you proud. The old man's eyes lit up and he suddenly praised, "Sure enough, you're my son." However, imagination was beautiful, but reality was cruel. Before I time traveled, I had already graduated, which meant it had been 4 or 5 years since the college entrance examination. The questions in front of me recognized me, and I vaguely recognized them. The next day, I crawled to school with huge dark circles under my eyes. During class, I lay on the desk and fell asleep. Suddenly, the back of my head was tapped gently by a hand. When I looked up, Matthew was standing in the corridor outside the window, looking at me with a gentle smile. "William, come out and stand at the door." The students in the class couldn't hold back their laughter, wave after wave. I walked out holding my breath. When passing by Carter, he rarely wasn't reading but looked up at me. There was a strong smile in his eyes, and the sun shone on him in patches, like stars in the sky. While Matthew was having class, I stood by the window in the corridor and listened. Carter was sitting by the window in the last row. The window was open, and a gentle breeze blew his slightly long hair, which fell on the clean test paper, leaving a beautiful shadow. I pressed against the window and watched his slender fingers hold a pen and write beautiful handwriting on the test paper word by word. My gaze was fixed on him, and I unconsciously stared blankly. No wonder he's the male lead. He's so good-looking. Carter looked up at me and the corners of his lips curled up. He looked even better. I stared wide-eyed as he smiled at me. Then I only felt a pain on my head, and a piece of chalk slowly fell from my head onto the desk. Carter moved his lips. "Idiot," Matthew said with a laugh hidden in his angry voice. "Since Carter is good-looking, you can look at him as much as you want after class, but you still need to pay attention in class." The whole class burst into laughter, and my face flushed instantly. My parents' work has become busy again. Just like in the novels, they're not in the country all year round. After having dinner at Carter's place, I followed him to the barbecue stand. Different from last time, I brought my books this time. To be honest, I don't know why I always follow Carter. I just feel that when I'm by his side, the world seems to become very quiet. Carter was grilling skewers while I was sitting beside him, reading books and doing calculations. I got a headache as I read. A slender finger tapped on the problem I'd calculated. There was the aroma of cumin behind me and Carter spoke casually. You got this wrong. Then, with just a few words, he woke up my mind that had been stuck for a long time. My eyes lit up. On the way back with Carter, I grabbed his sleeve and asked directly, Carter, you only earn 50 yuan a night from your part-time job, which is only 1,500 yuan a month, and you can't go every day. How about you tutor me? With your first-ranked grades in the grade. I'm sure I'll make rapid progress. You have good grades and I have money. It's a win-win situation for both of us. I looked at him with bright eyes. Under the dim street lamp, he looked at me with a complicated look in his eyes for a while, then said teasingly, I'm expensive. Seeing that he agreed, I quickly ran to his side and walked shoulder to shoulder with him. Well, it's reasonable to charge 50 yuan an hour for tutoring from the top student in the grade, right? He thought for a moment and nodded, okay. Carter, I always eat at your place. I should pay for the meals. I wonder if Granny will ask you to take it. It's only right. Then let's start tutoring tomorrow. Okay. Can I stay at your place tonight? The answer I got was the sound of a door closing and Carter's cold voice. No. Alas, it seems that it'll take some time before I can move into the future Big Shot's house. Carter's tutoring as the top student in the grade is really effective. Even though I've taken the college entrance examination once, the learning methods and thinking patterns of a genius are really beyond the reach of an ordinary person like me. In the evening, after having the stewed chicken with mushrooms cooked by Granny, I sat in front of the only desk in Carter's room. Carter was wearing casual clothes, holding a book and lying on the bed on his back, while I was holding the test paper he'd given me, deep in thought. It's so difficult. I gritted my teeth. But since I had made the promise, I couldn't let my cheap dad down. After finally struggling to finish the test paper, Carter condescended to get up from the bed, picked up a pen, and finished checking it in less than 10 minutes. Big crosses were all over the test paper. I wrote it seriously. The questions were too difficult. I thought Carter would laugh at me, but unexpectedly he nodded and admitted it. Indeed, your foundation is okay. Come on, let me explain the questions to you. I followed his problem-solving method and wrote down the answers. You got this wrong. Carter stood behind me. I was sitting on the chair. He bent down, held my pen, and wrapped my hand in his. I curled my fingers, but he tightened his grip on my hand. His palm was very warm. I couldn't help blushing and my heart pounding. It seemed we were too close. I blushed and felt a bit uncomfortable. After Carter finished explaining the questions, he glanced at me and tapped on the table. Be more serious. In the monthly exam half a month later, I advanced more than 100 places from the 200th in the grade. On the day when the grades were announced, Matthew, who always looked at me with disdain, deliberately walked past my seat. He reached out and patted me on the shoulder, saying earnestly, I've always thought you could do it. Work harder. The college entrance examination is the most important stage in life. Don't let yourself regret it. I nodded and looked back at Carter sitting in the last row. He seemed to sense it and looked up. When our eyes met, he crashed into my world. When I turned my head back, my heart was pounding wildly in my chest. It seemed that I had fallen for the male lead in this double male lead novel. In the following days, Carter's home became my second home. In the morning, when I set off from home to school, I would occasionally receive tea, eggs, and soy milk brought by Carter. I would also bring him soy milk and the brain tonic products that my mom sent home in boxes. We did questions together during the break, had lunch together, and in the evening, I went to Carter's home with him to have Granny's loving dinner. Then it was the tutoring time with the top student in the grade. Finally, the top student in the grade sent me home. Yes, it's been 2 months, and I still haven't managed to stay at Carter's place for a single night. Before the evening class was over, suddenly a strong wind blew outside the window, and there was lightning and thunder. I, who was concentrating on doing the questions, was awakened and immediately started packing my books into my school bag. Carter got up and closed the window. Seeing that I was about to walk towards the door, he grabbed my wrist. You haven't finished yet. Where are you going? His palm was very hot. I withdrew my hand and explained, It's thundering. I have to go home. It'll be difficult to walk if it rains later. Carter reached out for my school bag, took out the test papers from it and put them on the table. His slender fingers tapped on the table, and his eyes signaled me to sit down. It's not safe. Squeeze in here. Now do the questions. Don't try to be lazy. I sat on the chair, and my hand holding the pen and my mind were completely out of sync. Sleep with Carter. My heart was pounding like a drum, echoing with the rumbling thunder outside the window, and couldn't calm down. After washing up, I was standing by the window awkwardly in Carter's pajamas. Carter's bed is 1.5 meters wide. It's completely okay for one person to sleep in, but for two big boys, physical contact is inevitable. Even more unfortunately, I just realized that I had a crush on Carter not long ago. If Carter finds out that I'm having an erection now, will he just reach out and break it off? Just thinking about it made me extremely panicked. Carter lifted the quilt and looked at me. Don't want to sleep with me? Then, he asked in a complicated tone, do you want to sleep with my grandma? I stared wide-eyed and immediately jumped onto the bed, curling myself up in the quilt. Just as I rolled myself into a caterpillar, the quilt was pulled open, and Carter lifted the quilt and lay in. On the 1.5 meter wide bed, we lay side by side. Carter. I turned over and lay on my side, looking at Carter. He had his eyes closed, and his long eyelashes were like two thick little brushes. Below his high nose bridge was his rosy thin lips. I called him, but he didn't answer, but I knew he wasn't asleep. Facing him, I sincerely apologized to the male lead in this novel, whose youth was marred by just a few strokes in the story. Carter, I want to say sorry to you. Before, I was temporarily out of my mind, because I was jealous that you were good, looking better at studying and more popular than me, so I tried to put you down by bringing up Granny and your family background. Although I know that the harm has already been done to you by saying these now. I don't expect you to forgive me either. I just want to express my apology. I'm sorry. I did something wrong and I'm willing to bear the consequences. How can you treat me? Carter, who had been quiet all the time, suddenly opened his eyes and looked at me. His gaze was deep, as if there were wild beasts hidden in them. He rolled over and pressed me firmly under him. I can do anything to you? His voice was as cold as if it carried ice chips. Against the dim night outside and the roaring thunder, it was somehow creepy. I shivered all over and nodded reluctantly, trying to suppress my fear. Carter slowly lowered his head. A flash of lightning outside the window illuminated the room for a moment. In a trance, I saw myself in Carter's eyes. That night, all I could remember was the taste of toothpaste on Carter's lips. It was mint. Days passed like flowing water, continuously day and night. In a blink of an eye, there was less than a month left until the college entrance examination. The rapid improvement in my grades gave hope to my parents at home. They specially stopped their work and flew back from abroad to take care of me. Because of their return, I couldn't be with Carter every day. As for Carter and me, except for that night and that kiss, which I didn't know was an illusion or a momentary daze, everything remained the same as before. At noon, I brought the wrong, answered questions that had accumulated during the 2 days when I didn't go to Carter's home and sat at Carter's desk, but he wasn't there. Have you seen Carter? I grabbed a classmate and asked. As soon as the classmate heard Carter's name, he immediately winked at me. I frowned, having a bad feeling. Carter? I just saw him come out of the cafeteria. Our class beauty called him to the Grove. Since I became friends with Carter, the attitude of the class towards him had been changing day by day. Sophia? What does she want with Carter? Yeah, William. The class beauty is crazy about our top student. What else could she do at this time? She must be making a last-ditch effort. I threw the test papers on the table and turned around to run towards the Grove. Actually, I didn't know what I was going to do either. Even if Carter accepts the confession, what right do I have to stop it? Before the time, travel, you were several years older than Carter, William. Be more ambitious. After time, traveling, do you still want to get into a second-tier university? The college entrance examination is the most important thing. No matter how hard I try to convince myself, my heart just won't listen. At the Grove behind the teaching building, the delicate girl with tears on her face was being held in the arms of the young man who had grown more and more handsome after half a year. My heart suddenly felt like it was stabbed hard by a needle. It was sour and numb with a faint and unavoidable pain. I walked back dejectedly, not even noticing that I stepped on a plastic water bottle. I sat blank-minded at my seat. In front of me was the test paper with a large number of check marks, which Carter had brought for me to check the answers. I slapped myself hard twice on the face. William, after time traveling, don't let yourself regret again. I picked up Carter's test paper and walked to his seat, intending to exchange it for my own. As soon as I picked it up, it was held down by Carter's two slender fingers. Did you see it? My hand holding the test paper stopped in mid-air. Carter frowned with a barely noticeable restlessness in his eyes. Speak, William. I blinked my eyes and looked up at Carter, smiling with curved lips. Carter, there aren't many days left until the college entrance examination. I want to work hard on my own in the remaining month. Thank you for tutoring me during this time. I tugged hard at the test paper. Carter's two fingers couldn't hold it down, so he directly reached out his well-defined hand to grab it. He pursed his lips tightly, staring at me with a cold look in his eyes. Just like when we first met right after I time traveled. The classmates around were very nervous and didn't dare to get close. We were at a stalemate for a long time. It wasn't until the school bell rang that the stalemate was broken. In the following month, the distance between me and Carter was just like that between ordinary classmates with no excessive communication. Only occasionally when I looked back and our eyes met, Carter's eyes were as dark as ink. I got up early and went to bed late. Exercise books piled up like towers and the pen holder was filled with used pens. The countdown in the corner of the blackboard reminded me all the time. William, there's no room for love in senior year of high school. Don't let yourself regret again. The nerves became more and more tense. My parents were very careful at home. There was an atmosphere of readiness to go all out both at home and at school. 5 days before the college entrance examination, the school began to have a holiday. I stood at the school gate with a heavy school bag in my hand and Carter stood not far from me. My father's car was stuck in traffic and it would take a while to arrive. I thought the silence would continue, but Carter picked up his school bag and walked towards me. Carter, who had already reached adulthood after his birthday, suddenly grew taller. Before I knew it, he was already much taller than me and his voice during the voice-changing period was hoarse. There was something indescribable in his eyes. He bent down slightly and got close to my face. The too close distance made me a little uncomfortable. William, it's too late to be afraid. My mind, which had been overfilled with questions all day, hadn't reacted yet. I stared blankly into his eyes. I didn't understand what he meant at all. Seeing the blank look in my eyes, his eyes became even more fierce. He stretched out his long and fair fingers and rubbed them hard back and forth on my lips at the school gate where people were coming and going. It wasn't until my lips were rubbed red as if they had been severely kissed that he withdrew his hand. He looked at me deeply for a while, then picked up his school bag and left. There were still 2 days left before the college entrance examination. Sitting at the table and desperately writing questions, I suddenly put down the pen in my hand and suddenly looked up. My heart was pounding in my chest. Suddenly I remembered. Today was the day when Granny had an attack. Since Carter didn't have a mobile phone, he went to the street to call for help. By chance, David saw him because of the previous confession and blocked him. As a result, Granny missed the rescue time. Carter was injured in the arm by David and others and missed the college entrance examination. Finally, he got involved in the underworld. A few years later, he became a business tycoon who was well known in both the white and black societies. I immediately put down the pen, picked up my mobile phone and went out, rushing all the way to Carter's home. As soon as I entered the alley in the old street, I saw several people surrounding Carter. There were sweat stains on Carter's forehead and his eyes were full of anxiety. I quickly dialed the police and the ambulance and rushed up to help. The scene was once in chaos. David was beaten several times by Carter and flew into a rage. He picked up a stick from the ground and smashed it on Carter's head from behind. At that time, my mind was blank. I only knew one thing, that is, I couldn't let David ruin Carter's future. When I came to my senses, my arm had already blocked the back of Carter's head. I let out a muffled groan and felt a sharp pain in my arm. William. Carter hugged me backhandedly, dodged the attacks of several people, and then the sounds of an ambulance and a police car came from outside the alley. William, your arm. He gently held my injured arm and the worry in his eyes was about to overflow. Carter, it's okay. Taking this blow for you is my way of repaying you for the bullying I did to you before. I gritted my teeth and pretended to be strong, not letting myself cry in front of Carter because of the pain. That would be too embarrassing. After all, I'm a few years older than him. Shut up. You don't owe me anything. You're not him at all. Carter said this word by word through gritted teeth with red, rimmed eyes. I stared at him with wide eyes. Not far away, the ambulance staff were carrying a stretcher and coming towards me. Without thinking much, I quickly pointed at Carter's home with my uninjured hand. Building 6, room 302. The old woman is having an attack. Go quickly. Then I pushed Carter. Carter gave me a fierce look, then turned around and went home with the paramedics to carry Granny. On the day of the college entrance examination, with my left hand in a cast, I entered the examination room conspicuously among numerous college entrance exam candidates. Fortunately, I used my left hand back then. If it had been my right hand, I'm sure my cheap dad would have wanted to tear David apart. I successfully finished the college entrance examination and also received a pennant for courageously doing what's right issued by the school. After the college entrance examination, I stayed at home to recuperate from my injury. Because I ran out and got beaten 3 days before the college entrance examination and almost couldn't take the exam, my parents strictly prohibited me from going out in the short term. Since Carter didn't have a mobile phone, I could only learn about him and Granny from my teachers and classmates. As for David? Well, his father came to my home to seek reconciliation. Not only did my dad have no intention of reconciling, but he also wanted to hold David legally accountable. On the day of checking the exam results, my whole family sat in front of the computer as if facing a great enemy. As soon as the time was up, we immediately turned on the computer. 710. Dad, did you see that? Your son is useless. But your grandson scored 710. My dad was in tears and immediately went to the wine cabinet to grab 2 bottles of wine. He insisted on going to visit my deceased grandfather. I'm going to see if there's any auspicious smoke rising from the old man's grave. I rolled my eyes. Was it really necessary? Although I was also very excited. The phone rang, and it showed the name of my homeroom teacher. Hello, Matthew? It was Carter's cold and clear voice on the other end of the phone. William, it's me. I was stunned for a moment, then asked, how is Granny? I've been confined at home by my parents recently and not allowed to go out. She's okay. That's good. Suddenly, neither of us spoke, and the atmosphere became a bit quiet. There was the sound of a door opening on the phone, followed by the sound of a door closing. Carter gave a soft laugh. I listened carefully to his every move on my end. William, do you know what I was thinking in my heart the last time at the school gate? The last time at the school gate? Recalling that, the cold fingers pressing on my lips, I blushed instantly when I realized what had happened. What were you thinking? I wanted to make you cry bitterly. William, are you scared? Carter hung up the phone after saying that, leaving me in a daze looking at the hung-up phone. After a while, I was still blushing and my heart was pounding. But this is a novel with 2 male leads. Carter and another boy, Anthony, are the main characters. William is just a supporting character. When I dragged my luggage to the entrance of Jing University, I unexpectedly ran into Carter. After not seeing him for a long time, he seemed more silent. Compared with the appearance of a young boy when I first transmigrated, he now had the characteristics of an adult male. I unconsciously swallowed my saliva. Just as I lowered my head and wanted to leave, I was blocked by the long legs in front of my luggage. Why are you running away? Are you scared? Carter lowered his eyebrows and eyes, with a wanton smile on his lips. He seemed to be a different person from before at school. No, Anthony. Hearing the familiar name, I suddenly turned my head and looked over. A delicate-looking black-haired boy was standing not far from me. The tall boy called his name. He turned his head slightly and looked as beautiful as an angel. People nearby all looked in the direction of the sound and were captivated by his beauty. I stared blankly at Anthony's face. Probably because I stared for too long, his gaze also looked back, and our eyes met. Anthony actually reached out and pulled at his cheeks, making a funny face at me. I widened my eyes and couldn't help swallowing my saliva. So cute! My arm was suddenly grabbed hard. Carter's handsome face was as cold as ice. He lowered his head and pressed against my face and asked, so cute, do you want to ask for his phone number? My heart skipped a beat. In the original text, Carter met Anthony after becoming a big shot. But now Anthony is still a student. Then will the 2 of them be unable to control themselves? My heart ached dully. I nodded, okay. In case I accidentally anger Carter in the future, I can still ask Anthony for help, to plead for mercy or something. I took a few steps forward towards Anthony, but was suddenly pulled back hard. My waist tightened. I couldn't stand steadily on my feet. I quickly grabbed Carter's coat, and my lips were fiercely invaded and crushed. Vaguely, I could hear the gathering and cheering of students near the school gate in my blank mind. After a long time, he let go. His lips gently nibbled mine. Carter's eyes were dark and his voice was full of aggression. You're not focused. His eyes glanced in Anthony's direction. Afraid of him seeing? What the hell? I don't even know the guy. Carter, can you be reasonable? Our lips were firmly pressed and crushed against each other. I tried to turn back to see Anthony's expression. Just as I turned a little, Carter grabbed my face and wouldn't let me look back at all. His lips were close to my ear, with a slight hoarseness and threat. William, if you want your legs broken and be made to cry in bed by me for the rest of your life, then just take a look back at him. I guarantee I'll fulfill your wish right away. There was a hint of red in the depths of his eyes. While pinching my face, he kept eyeing my legs. I swallowed hard and quickly and obediently reached out to hook his neck and pulled his head down. My lips gently touched his. Carter, as long as you never change your heart, I can be yours for a lifetime. In the university cafeteria, supporting my overused lower back, I carried my tray to find a seat. Not long after Carter enrolled, he took the software he designed to attract investment and opened his own studio. He has work today. From afar, I saw Anthony. He was sitting lazily at the dining table, as if surrounded by a halo. There were obvious hickeys on his neck. When he saw me, he waved at me. I carried my tray and sat down at the table. Anthony's eyes boldly swept over my waist and he said in a frivolous tone, "So miserable? Your husband is quite good." I blushed and looked at his neck, retorting, "Your husband is not bad either." Anthony was stunned at first, then laughed so hard that his eyes were red with tears. He glanced at the back of the cafeteria door, then stood up, walked up to me, and whispered something in my ear that shattered my worldview. "Baby, I'm the top one. So, do you want to give it a try with me? What? Is the main bottom actually a top?" I was still in shock when suddenly I heard a cold and angry voice. "William." Without looking back, I cast a resentful glance at Anthony, who was still laughing and quickly ran towards the other door. God knows how fast I ran. Unfortunately, human capabilities have their limits. In the silent darkness, there were only the sounds of sobbing and pleading. Against the backdrop of the night, they became the harmonious movements of love.